What's good, you guys? It is your girl, Fallon Favors, Baby Mama Chronicles. Yes, another episode. And this episode is, I guess you could call it an exclusive. Never seen since 2009. Baby Mama Chronicles was originated. I have not done any interviews. It has always been front facing with my viewership, which I got. I always appreciate you guys, the support and the love over the years, of course. So we're venturing into something a little bit different. And I think it's so important and so needed just for us to be able to tell our stories, share our stories. So it just would so happen to be somebody from my collegiate, from my industry family, from my, it's a bond and a connection that I have with a certain group of people because we are the only ones that kind of understand a certain phase of life that we have to go through. So it's a very special niche group. And that is my College Hill sister, Ashley L. Or is it Ashley Lassiter? Or am I saying it too fancy? Is that right?
Lassiter.
Lassiter. Like, girl, I didn't know if it was Creole. I'm like, that is so, I love that. I think that it's important for us to begin, to start having dialogues with each other. A lot of the times, like not even just with, issues relating to single parenthood and, being a baby mama, which is this whole thing that we're trying to do with the B.M.C is kind of dispel the negative connotations that's associated with that word or with that term. We don't get a lot of opportunities to share our dialogue, especially openly. And we're all pretty much dealing with the same thing on some level of that co-parenting journey. And I think the more we share our stories, the more we can inspire each other and know that we're not alone. And then, we have that support and it just helps us, I think, become better people, better women, and then of course, better, mothers and stuff like that.
Of course, I definitely agree. I think that this is a very much needed platform because it gives people an opportunity to see, both sides. There's, of course, two sides to everything, but mostly when you're the primary caregiver, you have way more insight on what a parent is.
Amen. To say the least, I think that's an understatement. But so we can talk about you. I kind of want to just get started with, your background. And of course, I did my research, child. And it's funny because, College Hill is our link. That's our common bond. And it was an amazing opportunity, I think, for us at that age. I don't think I saw it as that at the time. It's definitely allowed me to parlay my likeness in other areas, which I'm grateful for now, but it definitely did probably cause some mental and emotional damage back then. But very similar to myself, shortly after filming the show and having the success of the show, which was College Hill Atlanta season 5. For those that don't know, they have been living under a rock. Go research it. They're doing a reboot right now. But she was on College Hill season 5. And you were pregnant shortly after that because I was pregnant on the reunion that we had. You guys hadn't come on board yet. I think it was just seasons 4 and back, or it may have even just been seasons 3, 4 and interns. So I was pregnant during the reunion. And so that was just shortly after I filmed. So same with you, correct?
Yeah, so we filmed in 2007. We aired March of 2008, and okay. I want to say I had my daughter in 2009.
Yeah,
February 2009. So yeah.
Yeah, so we definitely had that in common. It was kind of like, I don't know what that was about either, because it was kind of like, for me, I think about being in that mind space, like I really should have been more concerned with getting that coin and, you know what I'm saying, getting out here and handling my business, child, and networking, and you know what I mean. And I'm like, how did this happen? But of course I wouldn't change it. You know what I mean?
Of course. Similar, very, very similar, the same. Got pregnant shortly, of course, after taping the show and the short airing and everything. And my primary focus wasn't really the whole networking thing. Like, it was literally something that I fell into because I remember, because Sarah was on the show with me, and Sarah was in line at the time, and I remember calling her, and she was like, yeah, I'm in line auditioning for College Hill. And she was saying that there were a lot of people. So I was like, oh, okay. So I remember going to class, going to get some food. And I remember auditions ended at 5. I pulled up at 5:01. They were just telling a person in front of me that they couldn't audition because they were closed. And I remember Sean Rankin came from out of the building and was just like, let her in.
Right.
It was. So we go in, and as we're doing this group interview, I just like filled out the paperwork and everything. And we're still like interviewing and I'm talking and doing everything, and I just kept making it through. So
Right.
I wasn't as focused on like, this is going to be my career once
Right.
everything's over and the show, aired. Really, it was interesting because me being a parent now at the time, my daughter's father, he was my boyfriend, and he was a striving artist. So his, I'm going to say, insecurities and the things that we had conversations about, because I was known and people recognized me, and he would be my plus one when I would go host stuff. So that wasn't the most mentally, I would say it was a little draining for him as far as his
And
insecurities went,
intimidating, I could imagine. Yeah.
very intimidating. And I fell back. I fell back and focused on him and what he wanted to do, because I was back in school. I was in school, so it was just like not a thing. And then they have a baby.
And it's funny, I'm glad you brought that up because, again, I'm doing my research and I'm just looking into what you were a part of. And people don't understand what College Hill was to the culture then. I think they will start to understand. Well, a lot of people do know, to be frank, but there are some that don't, mostly like the newer generations. And once this reboot kicks off, I think they'll be able to see. But girl, I done pulled up interviews with you interviewing everybody from Lil Wayne to DJ Khaled to, girl, let me look at my list, girl. Rocco, Chingy, Soulja Boy, Mike Jones, Jim Jones. I mean, I don't even think we definitely did do Spring Bling, but just that kind of networking and your comfortability with kind of being in that space, considering the fact that that wasn't your primary focus or goal, going into it, you were very natural in that space. You know what I mean? This industry game and, kind of being in the mix and, learning how to move and shake is not for everybody. And everybody is not able to attain and sustain that. So that was very impressive with me seeing that. So it's interesting that you bring that up in, of course, your baby father. And we definitely, are going to get into that as well. But just who you were, I never wanted to be a thing where people feel like, this is a conversation to, out someone, because you were already your own celebrity in your own right. You already had your own status. You already had your own things going on. You seemed to be like an overachiever. You know what I mean? I see you was cheerleading and, Georgia Tech graduate and, all of the things.
I was not a Georgia Tech graduate.
No. Okay, so I got that wrong. Okay.
I did attend Georgia. Oh, no, you're good. But that is right here in Atlanta. I attended Georgia State. I did not attend Georgia State because at the time, when I went back to school, I was, I just had my daughter because I took off when I got pregnant. And when I was trying to focus back on school and focus on his career, and when we lived together and we're sharing a car, and I'm missing exams, I'm missing midterms, and even though we're co-parenting, someone's more focused on a career and I'm more focused on being a parent.
Right.
So I just couldn't do it. So I actually started a career. It's been actually great. So, no shade to anybody. I love the fact that, I went on College Hill and, I attended school. I actually want to shout out Savannah State University, because when I went to Georgia State, I just attended classes because I just had so much going on at home with, being a new mom, and then, my relationship at the time, I wasn't in the mental space to complete that task. But eventually I'm still striving and thriving, and it makes me feel good that my daughter has someone that she sees actively working, literally accomplishing all the things that she wants to do. So I'm proud of myself for falling back from the industry and for falling back from the things that weren't for me.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and who better to set that example than the mama? You know what I mean? Like little girls and their mamas, it's a thing where, people feel like, okay, well, mothers and daughters, they be having friction, which I do feel like a certain age, it can be possible. But I feel like, that mother-daughter relationship is so important and special. It's a bond. It's such a special bond. Me and my mom didn't, kitty catted all throughout my life. but I would ride or die for my mother. You know what I'm saying? And I know my daughter would do the same for me. It's such a special bond.
It is. It is. It's very overwhelming to literally not only have somebody who is all the like best special parts of you, but remind you and give you that nostalgia of being a kid. And
Yeah.
I do love that because it brings in so many memories. So
Very true. Very true. Well, so I know that you spoke on a relationship that you were in post College Hill, so basically at the height of your fame, the height of your success, this would have been 2000 and you said 8, right? Or 2009.
2009, 2010, yeah,
Okay.
2009, 2010.
All the industry events, in Atlanta, major, city for industry things and, music and entertainment and all of those different things. So right in the midst of it, you enter into this relationship with your baby's father. Um, and that was one of my questions too. How did you guys meet or come together? Let's start with that. How did you guys meet? Where did you guys meet? What's the story?
We met at a house party. We met through Neo. So Neo was a mutual friend of ours. At the
Okay.
time, David was signed to Compound, which was Neo's record label.
Mhm.
And if I'm being honest, uh, when we met, it was cool. We were just first like friends and so forth, but we were together every day. And he ended up moving in with me. So it wasn't until we were actually living together that I even started to claim him as my boyfriend
Right.
because it was something like relationships are serious. I'm not
Yeah.
just going to just claim someone and be in a relationship with someone because we're sharing the space.
Right.
So yeah, that's how we
Okay.
met.
Gotcha. Okay. So almost like still kind of industry vibe. So he was in the mix and we might as well go ahead. So we're talking about your baby's father, who is David D. Brandon Brown. You guys know him as Lucky Day. And at the time that you guys were together, he was an aspiring starving artist, essentially. Would you
Um,
agree?
yeah, I would. He was actually a songwriter at
Songwriter.
the time.
Okay. Right.
He was actually at the time of me during College Hill and everything like that. When it was airing, he had just finished his She Got Her Own, Neo, or yeah,
Right.
Neo. So it was actually David who it was originally his song. So he originally sung it.
Mm. That's
So
interesting. Okay.
then Big Fox got a hold of the demo, heard David sing the demo, and he wanted the song. So I actually have those plaques in my daughter's studio upstairs for that. But at the time, he was a singer, aspiring singer, but he was, a songwriter.
He was already making connections in the industry. He was already connected in, kind of like making his way through. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So do you feel like during that time, because this is pre-baby, but do you feel like, and then you were also saying that there was a lot of, going out, mixing and mingling, which power couples do, if you're in that same industry and you're looking to, elevate and, do those things, you go to industry events together, try to find ways to fit in and try to do that, together. So during that process, you were saying that he was a little bit intimidated by that. Why do you feel that is, considering that he already had his own thing going on too? It's kind of different if, like, let's say you working at Staples, and no shade to the Staples workers, but I'm just saying, like, if you're a Staples worker and that's kind of your thing, you're on that corporate journey or whatever else you're on, and then you're dating somebody that's industry, it can sometimes be a little bit intimidating. But because he was already industry, why do you think that he, was a little bit intimidated by that?
Simply because of the fact that he wasn't living in his passion. So because he wasn't living in his passion and he wasn't doing what he felt he was supposed to be doing, and he felt that I was doing what I wanted to do because people
Mm.
went out and everything like that, and it was weird for him because they would ask him to take our picture.
Mm.
So knowing where he was, it was unsettling for him to be out and with me in public just because he would be that person.
Yeah.
So when it came down to things for him, he was very not open to for example, he was very not open to us being out as a couple unless it was like him and his friends. When he was David, it was okay. When he was D Brown, it was different energy, and he was a different person. So there was one particular time he wanted to do a show. Booked everybody I hired the dancer, paid the dancer, I booked the club, hired the photographer, cinematographer. I did literally everything. I put this whole show together, bought his outfit. I did everything.
Everything, girl. Okay.
And when it was over, they were going to the strip club, and he told me that I couldn't go because it wasn't a good look for the industry to have a girlfriend. So he went with friends,
right,
and then girls. So there were things that he did for what he wanted to do as far as his success went. So I allowed it because, you know, he was uncomfortable when it was us. So because it was his night, I didn't want to be Ashley L and take for what he had going on. So, you know, I bowed out.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was going to be the next question. So, I mean, at what point did you feel like, because at this point you guys are already rolling, you already have his back. Like at this point, you're also trying to like get him to the next level and support him, which most solid women do when they have a man that's trying to pursue something. So at what point did you even realize you were in love with him, or that you wanted to make that step? Like what things, I think, or what qualities did you see in him that inspired you to want to get behind him, support him, and kind of join forces with him in that way?
If I'm being honest, there wasn't anything that stood out besides the fact that he was dedicated to the writing, to the studio time, and so forth. So because he was passionate, because we had those dialogues, those pillow talks, those in-depth conversations, then I was able to know exactly what he needed and try to get paid for that. So it just ended up, you know.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, if we fast forward then, you know, you guys are on this mission, you guys are making it happen, you're moving and shaking, you're kind of noticing that he's not really giving you the kind of energy back in appreciation. Because if you're supporting someone, I think sometimes men struggle with that. And I think it may be changing now, because now it's fashionable to have your wife next to you. Now it's fashionable and it's in to have, you know, your baby mama or whoever you're dating, you know, as your counterpart. At the time when we were coming up in the industry, of course, this was pre-social media and all of that, or major platform social media. That wasn't really what it was, even to be pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And being in the public eye, you know, it was just a totally different climate. So clearly during that time, you know, you guys were kind of going through your thing. So at what point then does the baby, you know, your daughter come into the fold? Is it something that you guys planned? Is it something that you guys talked about?
It was not planned, not talked about. I remember what's so funny about me being pregnant or finding out when I was pregnant was or when me and David were just dating, we were still living together, but he had a family reunion in 2009 or 2008. He had a family reunion, and it was in New Orleans. So I remember us flying to New Orleans to this family reunion, and us talking to his aunt and us visiting his aunt and meeting all his family and everything. And she was just like, "Don't get pregnant, you know, X, Y, Z, and the third." Okay. Girl, it was so funny. This is her first time. Like, she hadn't seen him in forever and so forth. She was just, yeah, don't get pregnant. And I'm probably sure, like, either right after that or at that time, I was already
pregnant.
But she was not planned. Wouldn't change that for anything under the sun, moon, and stars. It's interesting because she's completely the best part of both of us. Like, she's really funny, creative, amazing, and everything.
She is. She's a star. I love her. She's amazing. She's so beautiful.
Yeah. See, back then, I remember when we broke up, and we broke up because he broke up with me. He broke up with me in 2012.
And while you were pregnant? Is this during your pregnancy? Okay.
No, I was giving birth to Cadence. What took place was like just a chronological order of things. We were in and off or on and off for a while just because of just inconsistencies in him and trust issues and so forth. But that's neither here nor there because that's the past. Not honestly, don't even miss it or care about it.
Right.
But broke up with me because his exact words were, "I can't have my dream and be in this industry and live and pursue my career and have a family. I have to sacrifice one. I have to sacrifice one." And he said, I have to sacrifice my family. Now, granted, this is after I moved him in because of his situation living. This is also after, I'm not even going to tell that. This is also after Cadence, of course, Cadence is born. Cadence is 3 at the time. He he was living with me before he moved to LA. We were still together when he moved to LA. He actually broke up with me the weekend of his birthday. I flew there. I was not flying for free. I paid for a ticket, flew there to see my boyfriend, daughter's father for his birthday. And, we went. My cousin Gamble out there, she was working at Benihana's. He partied with his friend Dab and this white guy, I can't think of his name at the time, who he was couch surfing on at the time. So I got a hotel like a block away off of Sunset, like near that IHOP over there.
Okay.
And I remember he legit, I paid the tab. It's me, my cousin, his friends, and then at the end, everybody, go their separate ways. And me and David are walking down Sunset, and no, this isn't going to work because I'm not going to be able to do everything. And the type of man that you require isn't the type of man that I'm ready to be right now. I need to focus on my career and my family. I can't do it. So I'm still there the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's a bomb. I mean, I think we all can relate to times where a man has dropped a bomb like, excuse me, after, wait, what? Rewind. Yeah.
I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, I sacrificed my career. I sacrificed my school. I sacrificed just a lot of things to better him. So his biggest issue was, I feel that my daughter was so important to me, he felt intimidated by her at some point. So he live up to having to share his time with me. And then my time is just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. We have this baby.
Right.
And I honestly feel, and it's really sad, that if we had a little boy, things for him would be different. Me, ain't no gender gonna change the fact that that's really someone in my past who I'm just thankful that I have a child from, but I'm very beyond thankful that I got out of that situation.
That's very deep that you say that. That's something that I noticed. I don't think it's generation specific. I think this goes back since the beginning of time, where there is a favor of men wanting to have little boys. I don't necessarily think that's a problem. I do think that it's somewhat toxic when men kind of carry that disappointment within them subconsciously, because it does, it does come out, and you're able to kind of see that sometimes in the way that they have relationships with their children, especially that initial excitement and when they're younger and stuff like that. You see all of these gender reveals. Child, and I'll see gender reveals, and it spray out pink. It's pink confetti everywhere, and the man kicking stuff over, like literally, like knocking stuff off the table. Kind of having this freak out attack because he's having this girl, and I think that's completely freaking ridiculous. You know what I mean? When first of all, y'all not even having the children, and then on the other end of it is just kind of like you just want to pray for a healthy child. You know what I mean? I have an autistic or a little brother on the autism spectrum. You know what I mean? And my stepmother, she has other healthy children, besides just my baby brother. That was her youngest child. But, you don't automatically know when you're giving birth and when you're going through this process of being a mother and having a child that your child is going to come out healthy and you know what I mean? There are other things that could be at play. So thinking about gender or that just ticks me off. I don't know. That kind of triggered me. I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he wasn't that extreme, and
Right.
I'm not here to bash, but again, this is Baby Mama Chronicles, and I
Of
want to
course.
speak my truth, and these are my truths, and they only impact him because we have a child together. So I'll never speak ill or say anything that is not actual facts or true.
Right.
So one did do in regards to the gender thing that I feel was toxic and played on not only his relationship with us in my pregnancy, but his relationship with our daughter is when we were in the not delivery room, but when we went to a checkup, and it was one of the few that he went to. He came to the gender reveal one, and the doctor told us that we were having a little girl, and he started crying. And so it was tears of sadness because the first thing he said was, "My mom had 5 boys. I can't have no little girl." So his mindset was, "I'm not supposed to have a daughter. Like
Yeah.
I'm only it's 5 of us. What am I supposed to do with a little girl?" And I
Mm.
was just like, love her just like you would a little boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. It's no
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
The parenting and maybe the technique or style of parenting you might do may be different depending on your mentality or how your kids
Sure.
are, but that goes from not just different genders, but different types of siblings and different characteristics and how they are. So I think that that is one of the toxic things when it comes to gender. And besides that, he's actually, told my daughter, like, I probably would have been a better dad if you were a little boy. I don't really know what to do with a little girl. And yeah, I felt like that was actually not okay.
Yeah. And I think there are varying degrees of what we're talking about, like you were saying, so he may not have, gone to the extent of being just completely ignorant about it, you know what I mean? But maybe his honest expression just with wherever he was at that time, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, he felt that way for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Whatever background things or things are going on in his mind, but we'll get to that too. I have some questions about just his upbringing and makeup as well, and I don't want to stay on him the whole time. I want to kind of get to a certain point where we kind of just talk about healing and accountability and just like self-love, all of those different things, which of course we promote on the BMC. So we can fast forward, so you guys, the relationship dissolves. It doesn't necessarily work out per his specifying that, he's on this industry journey. And, in order to be able to really get to where he wants to go, he is basically willing to sacrifice, family, relationship union and all of that. So I assume you go back to Atlanta or back to your life of, world traveling and jet setting and, working and hustling and taking care of your daughter. He, of course, acquires extreme success, and of course it was over a period of time. If you're considering from 2009, 10, 11 all the way up to 2022, I guess he definitely did put in his 10,000 hours. So you fast forward and now we're talking about Grammy nominated, award performing, world renowned R&B superstar, Lucky Day. So that transitionary period, I guess, how do you feel now having a baby's father? Because we all got baby daddies. Even if y'all together, that's still your baby daddy. And, I don't have any shame in saying that. So considering the fact that you have a baby daddy that is of this status, a public figure, how does that resonate with you now?
If I'm being honest, it gives me PTSD. Like did call it chill, like certain things, there were triggers, like for example, like because we were mic'd up all the time, you like run the water when you go. I run the water when I go to the restroom at anyone's house because I don't want to feel like someone's listening to me use the restroom.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know that life. OMG. It's certain smells too. Certain smells sometimes will trigger me back to that too. But yeah.
Exactly. So when it comes to David, when you guys hear music, I hear arguments and conversations and dialogues and things that I've said to him in music and things that he said to me in text messages and conversations over dinner, whatever it is. So I can't listen to it the same way other people listen to it. So I feel that it's very saddening to me that I can't experience it the way that other people experience it because
Mhm.
I get reminders, and I'm literally the only person on the planet that can relate to that because I'm the only one who knows him like that. And we have been together since 2010 years in a full decade. However, there's still things that he says to me and writes in his music. So it's triggering, and I feel like it does me a disservice because I can't enjoy it. And it sucks because I know how talented he is. I was there shooting in the gym, and
Hello.
what I know what kind of artist he is. So I know that he is deserving
Yeah,
of the thing. I also
absolutely.
know that is deserving of a father. And I don't feel like who he is as an artist should even play into who he is to our household, to her.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like that's what played into the reasons why we can't co parent together because of the fact that he feels that I should have forgiven him and I'm holding a grudge against him because I never went back and all of his tries and efforts and everything that he's done over the years consistently has never swayed me in a full decade, has never ever
You say
persuaded me.
efforts, you mean to reconcile or to reconciliate the partnership or the relationship? What she said. What, to basically get you back, to get his baby mama wifey back. Okay. Okay.
Quarter, like once a quarter. Even with my most recent relationship,
She said once a
my,
quarter. Right.
I mean, I know him. I can tell you the Brandon like the back of my hand.
Mm.
So he literally comes around and once a quarter or whatever, but he can't do that no more because I just blocked him last month. But anyway, my boyfriend now, he didn't even have to really say too much because he can see it. All I do is just pass him the phone, like, here, baby, see this? Like,
Mm.
understand, like, I'm not making this up. He's just like, does he just get drunk and be writing you? I'm like, I don't know what he does, but do it off my phone.
Yeah.
And so he says things like, well, if you had a real man, sir, don't do that.
I can't handle
Don't do
it.
our relationship because you are not the person who is the man in the household. And I feel like it's respectful and I just want the focus to be our child.
Sure.
But you can't because there has been, and I say this just because there are so many other moms and people, single parents who have issues and traumas and co-parenting struggles. And I'm sharing these things because, or what I'm about to share because it's important, because no one honestly wouldn't care for real if he wasn't who he is.
Right.
So I don't think that's fair for me not to be able to speak my truths because people are his fans.
Mhm.
So I remember there was one point when I was starting a new career and I went out of town and my aunt was keeping my daughter for me. And there was a point where my aunt called me crying and my daughter called me. Like I could hear Cadence in the background bawling, crying. She's like 5 or 6 at the time. And I'm trying to get the words, like make out the words. My aunt saying, like, what's happening? Like, why is everybody crying? She's just like, I gave her the iPad so she could Skype her dad. And, I hear her bawling, crying. So I go into the bonus room and I listen at the door to figure out what they're talking about. And he's just like, no one will ever love your mom like me. You'll never have a stepdad. She's never going to get married. Like, you're going to be by yourself. You're never going to have a sibling. You're always going to be the only. It crushed me. It
Mm.
really, like, changed something in me because he did it when he knew I didn't have access to her for 5 weeks.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's what I had to handle in Texas. And I spent that entire time starting a new career, training, worrying about my baby,
Yeah.
worrying about the things my father is telling her because she's back at home. And I can honestly say that the best thing for any parent to do in these situations is therapy. Like, because there,
Yes. Yes.
there, there is no amount of arguing that will make you come to any type of resolution with someone who has that mindset and can say that to a 5-year-old girl. So there are just a lot of things over the years that I've had to push through. And I'm hoping to collectively finish what I've been writing about and put that to book form and share that because people need to hear it because some of the things are actually rather unbelievable. And instead of me just sharing them and talking them, I want something tangible that someone can reference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I commend that. I always say, like, and I've had episodes on my show where I've, told, the B.M.C gang just kind of my story as a daughter. And I wouldn't consider myself a daddyless daughter. I've always known who my father was. I've spent, many weekends and times and summers and stuff like that with my father. But it was an estranged relationship at certain points in time due to the nature of the relationship between my father and my mother. So there was something that I found on one of your social media platforms where your daughter was kind of explaining when was the last time she saw her father. You were asking her when the last time she saw her father. And, she said, when is your daughter's birthday? Is she Aquarius? Or when is your
Yes,
daughter? So,
yes,
Aquariuses are like stone faced with the emotion. They deal with that on their own time. You know what I'm saying? Because in the moment of her talking about it, she said, I really don't want to get into that because I don't want to get emotional. I might cry. She was very logical and very just, about it. And but she did say, I haven't seen him. I don't want to really talk about that. I feel like that's gonna make me cry. And it was triggering for me to the point where I did cry because I know what it's like, and not, in this particular situation, all of them look different, but I can remember, my father saying that he was gonna come a specific day and then not show up. And I don't think, and I think it's something that men really need to be aware of because you don't understand what that does to a young girl's heart. And we heal the world. We give birth to ideas, inventions, and all kind of other concepts and things that you guys see as far as beauty in the world and technology. Everything that we birth as women comes from our heart first. So when you damage that so early in a young girl's life, it really does take a process to get through that. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I shed tears, I didn't, it was very, very triggering. It's another thing I had posted too on one of my other videos. I had found it. And long story short, a young girl hadn't seen her father in forever. I guess her mother was surprising her with being able to see her father. She thought she was going to a hotel party or something like that. She opens the door, it's her father. She falls out crying. She's bawling. Because she hasn't seen her father forever. I know what that feels like to not have seen your father in so long. You kind of forgot what he looked like. It had been that just the texture of his skin and the smell of him and his embrace, what his voice sounds like. Very, 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 very traumatic. So, I did want to mention that and shed some light on that. And just, basically also commending your daughter at 13. My daughter's 13 too. Is she 13 now? Okay. So, just her having that strength so early and just that courage to even be able to speak it. Because sometimes too we suppress it. We don't want to talk about it. But for her to even give sound to the emotion or whatever, I think is amazing.
Yeah, we started early with words and grammar and everything like that, so she can articulate herself very well, and that's one thing that I commend her on. Another thing that I do on a consistent basis, and I could encourage all parents to do this, parent, mother or father, or whoever the guardian is. I ask my daughter not only when she comes home from school, how was school, but I ask her, how are you feeling? Like, how is your mental, like, is there anything that happened that you want to talk about? Is it something that made you feel happy, made you feel sad? Like, because sometimes she can wake up and, I'll be like, what's wrong? She's like, I don't know, I'm sad. I was like, well, do you want to talk about it? And she'll say, well, no, because I don't really know why I'm sad. I just know that I'm sad.
Yeah.
I said, okay, let's do something. Let's watch movie, let's draw something, let's, go outside, let's do something. So she can articulate herself very well. She just, for the most part, chooses not to when it comes to her father, and is very understood because it's hard for her. And I know that raising her, and she says things like, well, I don't really want to tell daddy how I feel because I only get a little bit of daddy. So she said, if I get a little bit of daddy, if I tell him, then I'm not going to have a dad. And I was just, unless you tell him, he's not going to believe that he's not doing anything wrong. So I don't feel that we should put it in the child's responsibility to share exactly how they feel because they're a kid. But I just remember feeling when he did that when she was younger that I was grieving her childhood because she didn't even get a chance to fully be a kid without the burden of what the adults had going on, and it was none of her business.
Yeah.
As a parent, especially the primary caregiver, whether you're the mother or the father, especially as a primary caregiver, you have so much, disproving to do without discrediting someone else. And it's such a, thin line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't want them to believe all the things that they're saying, but you also don't want to, make the other parent to be out in the villain, but you also don't want them to stand in the lies. So it's very hard. it's very,
yeah, I get it. My child's father and I, we did not plan our baby. He really didn't even want a child, and he was very adamant and open about that. I always take accountability in the fact that I knew that. I mean, I had a sense of that. We were both very, very young, and my decision to have my daughter was solely mine. And I kind of felt like whatever came with that, I would have to take on the chin. You know what I mean? And luckily, we were able to find some common ground, but it did take a while. It was not overnight. It was something that literally took years and years, all the way up into her current age of 13, just with family support and people trying to jump in to ensure that we don't go down a path where we cannot speak and we cannot mediate on our own, and we can't, but it is a process. It's a process. And like you were saying, in the middle of that, our children are still, hey, I'm still over here. They're still growing. They're still developing. They're hitting their marks. While we're trying to get it together, as parents. I mean, I totally resonate that 100%. I wanted to ask, what was, or what do you feel like, with everything, I guess, that you guys had dealt with, and it was some other things. I kind of just want to get those out of the way. I mean, essentially, I know that there was a point in time where, I know you were talking about your time in Texas, that he was supposed to keep her for a summer. And, he wasn't able to stay with her longer than just a couple of days, and then left her with a family friend or a family member, and didn't notify you or communicate to you that that's what he was doing. A situation like that, or a situation, whatever other kind of, that to me kind of stood out. What was the last straw? Because obviously now you're becoming more vocal about it. That takes a lot of courage as well, because of course you're going to have people that come to you and, want to, invalidate, if that's a word, or, kind of discredit your story based on feeling like you're a clout chaser or you're whatever, so at what point do you feel like it was the last straw to feel like, okay, at this point, I need to be vocal. I need to, if that means that I need to share my story, from my daughter's perspective and her POV, and kind of making that public? What was kind of the last straw with that?
I have a few last straws. Okay.
All the straws.
So as far as the Texas story goes, I'll start with that first because it's a little older, but not the oldest. Okay. I remember him. We usually, our main line of communication is texting. We text for years. One time we talked on the phone, was just like, look, I need solid plans. Like, what are we doing? I want you to, let me know how the summer's going to be because Cadence wants to see you. Well, I remember him being very adamant about us going to dinner. I want to say this was like 2018. He was very adamant because I was going to be in LA for work, and I was staying in Burbank, which is around the corner from where he lived. And the restaurant across the street from my hotel was literally 10 minutes from his house. Okay. So he was just, let's go and let's have an adult conversation. Let's meet. And I was just like, I really don't want to go to dinner with you, dog. And I'm sorry.
Yeah. Not really.
But I wanted to, do that for Cadence.
Yeah.
So I we're turning a new leaf, let's try something out. Let's go and sit down as parents and plan the summer. So we go and have dinner to plan the summer, me telling him, I'm overworked, I'm exhausted, like I just need a break, so you can focus on Cadence and I can have a break between work and, do what I need to do. He told me, okay, we're going to go ahead. I'll have her from, let's say, June 1st until like June 15th because she had a camp for dance. And then he was going to have her from like the 20th through the rest of the summer. So, or July 15th. He was going to have her from June 1st to July 15th and then bring her back.
Right.
Well, he had her for about 4 days before I called him. And I called to talk to her a couple of days throughout the day. And so I called him one day to talk to her on the phone. And he's just like, I'm going to call you back. And I hear the airport because I basically live there. So I hear it in the back. And so he goes, he sends me a text message. He's just like, I'm going through TSA. I'll call you back. And I say, well, where's Cadence? He says, she's with Harmony. She's with Chastity. Harmony. Chastity is his, sister. She was his sister-in-law at the time.
Okay.
And my daughter's cousin was her daughter. So when I asked him how I can reach my daughter, he gives me an email address for the little girl who was 10 at the time. And so I was just, what's old girl's phone number?
Right.
And he didn't have it. And that's what floored me was not only was he leaving her there, and he did not let me know that he was leaving her there unaccompanied by him. He also didn't let me know that he was not, he did not have a conversation with her. He never even told her that he was leaving her. When he asked his brother to ask his wife or his estranged wife, because they didn't live together, when he asked him to ask her, they ended up not having the conversation on him not being there because he never told her that he wasn't going to be there. Her brain thought that he was going to be at the brother's house on the same street, down the street, not she was just going to have her by himself. So that floored me because it was just not only the lack of disrespect, but it's the lack of accountability. And you're leaving a 10-year-old here and are not even having you're not leaving resources. You're not giving this woman any money. You're not even telling her you're leaving town. You're just leaving her with the kid and going for a few days and then coming back. Right. So he was leaving her there for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm coming to get my baby. So, because that wasn't anything that was discussed, it wasn't talked about. So she ended up going to his mom's in New Orleans. I love his mom. She's amazing. For, a couple weeks or whatever that summer. So that was an issue that I had that really bothered me as far as him not understanding how wrong that was to leave her. And you didn't even let her know you were leaving. Cadence didn't her dad was not there. So that was a problem for me as well. There was also a situation where we were supposed to go to Albuquerque Hot Air Balloon Festival for her fall break. Mm-hmm. Well, my friend and I had already planned it. We had bought tickets, that summer for October. Well, come to find out, he had one music fest here in Atlanta and was going to be here the weekend that we were going to be in Albuquerque that we had booked in July. Mm-hmm. So, I talked to my boyfriend about it. I asked him, like, how do you feel if, we don't go, if she wants to see her father, because I'm going to give her the option because I know he has a show and he's probably going to hit her up. Right. He said, he's always supportive. So he's just like, yeah, whatever Cadence wants to do, we'll do it. Right. Okay. So fast forward to him actually coming here. Mm-hmm. He made promises to her saying he's going to rent a vehicle, get this Airbnb, and it was just going to be them and they were going to hang out. So I talked to her. I told her what we were going to do. We were going to go to Albuquerque to the Hot Air Balloon Festival. I'd already had the hotel booked and everything. So she said that she wanted to see her dad because it was October and she hadn't seen him at all the whole year so far. So her first time seeing him would be that weekend he came for More Music Fest.
Yes.
So I was all for it. All right, bet, no problem. Well, he comes in town, and the only reason I know he's here is because he's texting me, and he's just like, "Are you in LA?" I said, "Why? Why? It's none of your business. What do you want?"
Right.
And so, he's just like, what does he say? He says, "Well, I was calling, or not calling." He said, "Well, let me know. Does Cadence have school this week?" I was just like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, let me know when she's from school, and XYZ and the third." Okay, no problem. That was on Wednesday or Thursday night. Wednesday. That Thursday, he's texting me, and I don't know what the dialogue was, but I said, "Please only text me about Cadence. Please don't text me about anything else."
Right.
A whole 60 seconds after I sent that text message about don't text me about anything else, he sends something, and then he says, come bring me some. And I was just like,
bring him some what?
Not something like that, but
right.
I'm not like, you have a team and you have people and you have Google and you have all of that. Like, miss me, DeBrandon.
Right.
So,
okay.
I replied to it. I just gave it to my boyfriend. And I was just like, here you go.
Right.
And so I didn't reply. What I replied with was that same audio that you heard of my daughter.
Okay.
And he replied with, "You don't care about me. It's not about you, sir. It's about her. Why I sent it to you, because it's about her. It's going to always be about her." Yeah. So fast forward to, that was on a Thursday. So Friday came, Saturday came, Sunday came. He didn't come pick her up till Monday, and he left on Tuesday. Now, when he came, and the reason that this was like a breaking point for me, because when he came in October, when he came that Monday to pick her up, he came at like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I come in the house, me and my boyfriend had just dropped his car off to get tinted. When we pulled up, David is at the mailbox because he's at the mailbox. Mm-hmm. So I come in the house and Cadence is about to walk out. And I was like, "Where's your bag? Like, where's your stuff?" Like, you know, I'm trying to get excited and stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, "Why are you not excited?" I was like, "Where's your bag?" She was like, "He said, I don't need it. We're just going to go to the park and like go to the mall, get some ice cream and stuff. And then he's going to bring me back." Mm. So she was sad because she had packed a bag and she had planned it, but she had already had a backpack because he told her he was going to have her for a week. So when she did leave, David, they left maybe around 11 o'clock at night. I sent him a text message like, "Hey, what time are you going to bring her back? Because you said she wasn't spending the night." And he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to keep her, but make sure you up early because my flight is at 5:15 in the morning. So make sure you up early for me to drop her off." Okay. Next, communicate with me so I know. And plus, it's still COVID, so I would like to have, I would have dropped her off some clothes and so forth, or she could have got some clothes for her. Right. But I really was not trying to pick a back. That just wasn't the battle. But I just said my piece and kept it moving. Right. Well, the next morning, I wake up at like maybe 8 o'clock, and I go upstairs to her room, and she's not there. And so when I call her phone first, and I call her like 3 times, she doesn't answer. So then I called David, and I was just like, "Where's Cadence?" He's like, "She right here asleep." I said, "I thought you had a flight this morning." He was just like, "Well, I canceled it." Or he said, "Well, I rescheduled my flight. I'm gonna drop her off after we get breakfast." I was just like, "Okay, next time, just communicate with me.
Let me know." Just a little ring, ding, ding. Yeah.
Even if it was late and you couldn't call, I could have woke up to that text message.
Of course.
And said,
yeah.
And so He was just like, yeah, whatever. So I'm trying to wait for them to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Hour late for my hair appointment. If my hairstylist hadn't been doing my hair for 13 years, she would have canceled me. So leave. Like I told my boyfriend, I was just like, let me know when David and Cadence make it back because I'm about to leave. I text David, I told him, I said, look, Lorenz is inside the house. I said, so you can go ahead and, drop Cadence off because Lorenz is there. Granted, what was so funny about this last visit, this in particular visit, was the fact that my boyfriend, he does cinematography, photography, he shoots, he does content, he does all of that. So he had his stuff packed up for a shoot on the sofa before he was leaving. And one of those things is 45. And so he had it on the sofa, on top of his hat with his lens and bag and stuff because he was packing up. Well, when David and Cadence come in the house, they come in through my garage and come in through the kitchen. So when I saw my cameras, I saw after the fact that Lorenz walked into the room and maybe like 60 seconds later, they walk in. Cadence goes upstairs to drop off. I think he like bought her some clothes or something. So she dropped off this bag upstairs and a volleyball that she had got from him and a pair of shoes. And she downstairs, speaks to my aunt who's working in the office, and then comes and she's just like, hey, she tells her dad that she was speaking to my aunt in the office. So at this point, he knows that there are at least 2 adults in the house with Cadence.
Sure.
Well, yeah, so while she was upstairs, he sees the gun on the sofa. And he picks it up. He picks it up and he's looking at it. And then you see him walk, like in my camera, I see him walk to the window, examine it, and say, Jesus Christ. And then goes and puts the firearm back with Lorenz's stuff. Now, granted, Lorenz was in the room the whole time getting the rest of his stuff. And lines in the office. So he then, on the next video clip I see him not talking, but he pulls out his phone because now he's in my kitchen. So he's back.
He's just all up and through the house. Okay.
So the next clip I see on the video was him in the kitchen and he has his phone out and he's recording, and he's down there by himself. He's recording by himself. So then that's when Cadence comes down the stairs while he's recording, and when she, comes to hug him to leave, he walks over and moves Lorenz's hat. She's like, what is this? What is this? Why is that there? And is recording her and the gun and saying, why is that there? And she's just like, oh, she left it. And he's just like, who left it? And so he then takes the firearm, puts it on my bar, hugs Cadence, and leaves. Doesn't say anything to my aunt, doesn't say anything to Lorenz, nothing. Like he never looked, made eye contact, spoke to anybody in that house. Now, what the problem for me was, I only knew about this because my boyfriend's trying to leave, and 20 minutes after I knew he was supposed to be out of the house, he's texting me like, hey, can you please check the cameras because we have names for our guns. But
because what do they call that? Because Atlanta is a license to carry state. So, everybody got a little something. I need to, I'm going to have to make my way down to Atlanta, make sure I can protect myself. But yeah, so everybody is able to protect themselves. Yes, very common.
Very important. I'm an advocate for that. I definitely carry every single day. I do not leave the house without Lucille. She go with me wherever I go.
I know that's right. Okay. Right.
So he moves the firearm. So Lorenz is, I'm literally under the dryer and he calling me. It's just like, can you please check the cameras and see who moved my gun? Like somebody moved Fia and I need to figure out where she at. I look at the clips and I see exactly what happened.
Right.
And I just, just text him real quick, like, hey, this is on the bar, XYZ and the third. So I text David like, hey, the next time you're in my house, if you move something, at a minimum, please let the people in the home, especially the homeowner, know that you're moving something. But at a minimum, don't move nothing. Don't touch nothing in my house. That's my house.
Right.
Especially something like another grown man's firearm. That's just something you don't.
Sure.
And so what really upset me was probably the fact that our dialogue back and forth was him not accepting any fault at all for that. He tried to make it seem like he tried to hastily move it because she saw it while he was trying to hide it. And I was just like, that's not what happened. That's literally the exact opposite of what happened. You literally put the firearm on the bar when you left, and you just left a 12-year-old with a gun in the house. You just walked away. You didn't tell nobody. You left it within arm's reach, within eyesight. So yeah, that was a problem for me, and I needed to address that with him.
Right.
So at that point, that was the breaking straw where he was no longer welcome in my home. So because you're not about to try to set me up in my house with my boyfriend's gun when it comes to that was my you can't come here because I work hard and you work too hard trying not to do what you are supposed to do as a parent. And that love he had for me turned into hate after it turned into bitterness because we weren't a family. And he just thought in his mind, he just knew he had me in his pocket because of all the things that I did with him and all the things I did for him, all the things I introduced him to, everything. Yeah. And I don't want to be detailed, but I got receipts and he know that, and I'm gonna just keep them in my pocket for future in life.
Well, there's a thing too where, men feel like, once, you have your baby mama, that is yours forever. That's yours. That's your bop, bop, bop. Like, ain't no switching it up no matter who they're with. And I think that's just absolutely insanity, especially if it has been longer than about 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, like, bro, like, better. You know what I mean? Like, if it's been a substantial period of time, you can kind of go ahead and let go of that fantasy,
I mean, I say things like boundaries because I would love to ideally live in a healthy co-parenting relationship. However, I've been trying that for 10 years and it has seemingly not worked. And it's just that his favorite thing to do to me is gaslight me. And you can't be in a healthy anything, a businessship, a relationship, friendship, anything with someone who, when they don't get what they want out of you, just makes it a point to, all right, let me see how I can.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so in addition to that, just with the miscommunications and the, just all of the different things, has he agreed to pay child support to at least financially support the child? Or is it an issue of emotional unavailability, a lack of financial support, commonality between co-parenting? Is it all of those things, including the financial aspect of it?
Basically, we ended up having to go to court for child support. He was originally, when they first found him for child support, he said that they couldn't find him because he didn't want to be found and made it a point. So when they actually got a hold of him, they had no records, no payments, no nothing on him. So they only had him paying like $260 a month for child support. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until he did an amendment. Well, at that particular time, when he was paying me the $250 in child support, in those 3 months where he was paying me the $250 in child support, he had deposited $170,000 in his bank account. So when that, he immediately changed the order to $4,500 and something dollars. Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't have to, it was a temporary order because at the time of, the court hearing, he was on tour in London. So he didn't make hearings in court, just his lawyer showed up. So basically, we were in court for 2 years. 2 years. It was very stressful, especially when you go to court and find out that he's paid more to his lawyers than he's ever given you in child support for a child who you take care of and sacrifice your whole life for. It's so gut turning. It's like, wow, you really paid this plastic person $80,000 and lied about how much time you spent with her. And I think that's what bothered me the most. So in court, he told the judge that he spent 3 months with her that particular year in question. And he spent 3 days. 3 days. And he only spent those
Compared to 3 months, it's quite a drastic, yeah.
Difference. It is quite a difference, you know, and I ended up paying for her to see him actually. And it was actually by default because I paid for her to go fly to New Orleans for Thanksgiving to see his mom. Mm-hmm. And it just happened to be that he was there because trust me, I ain't the only person who thinks he won't show up.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's just a matter of I would love for her to have a relationship with her father. Mm-hmm. I would love for her to have a strong, healthy, you know, lovable, genuine relationship. But what I really don't like is them talking to each other. And let me explain that. When they have their conversations, it is very detrimental to her mental health. Mm-hmm. And I say that because when we have conversations afterwards, she's just like, well, he asked me what I was supposed to, you know, what I wanted to go to therapy for, because, you know, we had a conversation on therapy, and he told her that therapy is for broken people to go talk to strangers to make them feel uncomfortable about their lives. I don't think you need therapy. I don't think anything's wrong with you. And the things that he says makes her feel like her intuition is off when she feels that she's not loved, and he's telling her, but I do love you. But it's January and it's February and I haven't talked to you since December. Like, where is this love that you're
speaking? It makes sense. Yeah.
So when it's so, I don't know what's worse, a complete deadbeat or someone as inconsistent as he is. And I feel like Cadence has it the hardest because I complain about my PTSD as someone who had his child. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine being a little girl seeing my father on TV and hearing him on the radio sometimes on the way to school or when you're out at a party and feeling like these people have more access to him than you do. Mm. And I hate that for her, especially when I fought so hard for them to have a relationship. I flew kids to LA literally like 2-3 times a year for her to see him. He was never responsible for seeing her. He never had to pay for her. He never had. I always made her available for him. I always went around his work schedule. And I just hope that this will allow not only him, but other parents and especially fathers to see how important it is to be not only present, but speak positive thoughts and feelings into their children. Don't make them feel like they need to be somebody else or a different gender or a different field or anything like that to get your love. Like, it should just be all across the board.
Unconditional. Well, just a couple more things I wanted to touch on. The premise of, again, this platform is to support baby mamas and also kind of give a little bit more context and education to why it is that we go through some of the things that we go through. It's so interesting that you brought up the therapy piece, and it's kind of like a new phenomenon. Our generation is kind of right on the cusp between the old school and kind of this new age model of self-reflection, self-work, shadow work, getting in the mirror, talking to yourself, working through all of the things. And it's actually amazing that we have that the access to that and to the resources. So I always try to drive home the importance of getting in the mirror, talking to self, owning your pieces of it, and kind of using that to navigate through the emotional aspects of dealing with a father, whether you consider him to be a father that's supportive or not. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I have my baby mamas that come and the baby fathers may be, somewhat supportive, but they still have emotional ties to them. You know what I mean? So there's still like emotional components. And she said, not me. Mama calling me, not that mama. But, emotional components, there's just a lot to unpack sometimes. You know what I mean? When you're talking about the whole tenure of a relationship or baby daddy, baby mama relationship. So in your space where you are now, I would like to ask, what can you own as far as accountability in your role in either the dissolution of the or breakdown of the relationship, the communication piece, even, you know, the entering into a partnership or union with somebody with where you may have saw the signs earlier on that he may not have been emotionally available, mentally available, stable. There may have been some other baggage and some other things going on there. What do you feel like may have attributed to some of those things from your POV or from your positioning?
I would really feel that my standards or my expectations, I will honestly say that, just because my family, we're so close knit. And when I say my standards or expectations, it's not even something that I even voiced. It's literally something that he felt. So I never not made him feel like this is something you need to do. Like, you need to be more involved. You need to be more active. And I would say that when it came down to our communication, it was hard. Just because co-parenting, I mean, my mouth is so bad, and I really take full responsibility for that. But it got to the point where I am me, like who I am as a person, and then when I get on the phone and I talk to David, and I hear the things that he has said, and I hear hurt, pain, I just have the worst mouth. And the reason it has gotten better, just as far as the direct communication with him, is because I'm not about to argue with a grown man. You're not my man.
Right.
You are not.
That part too. That part too.
I'm not about to argue with you. I'm going to tell you what it is, and you're either going to abide by my boundaries, or you can just be over there. And that's just really where I am overall in life.
Yeah. And then also, in addition, I think it's also important to note the context behind what kind of man this is. And this is not gender specific on the baby mama side, on the baby daddy side. We all have a story. We all have trauma to some extent. We all have baggage. We all have things that have happened in our formative years that have caused us to develop certain mindsets, attitudes towards life. And that's what therapy does do. Obviously, it gets you to kind of like vomit all of that up, you know, sort through it and kind of figure out how to kind of piece it back together in your current space. And him specifically, and not to put a target on his back, but just as the example, you know, my research of him was definitely kind of jarring, you know, finding out that there were, you know, things of being in a cult-like church and, you know, not watching TV until he was 13 years old, or, you know, being in certain kind of constricted or very kind of unusual environments. Him even alluding to the fact that, you know, his mother actually left the church based on her premonition or feeling or intuition, feeling like, you know, the head pastor of the church would, you know, potentially have a violation of his trust, or, you know, through molestation and things like that. It was some heavy stuff. You know, it seemed like he, you know, abandoned his family, or his family abandoned him when he went off on his journey, you know, musically, because he came from this super over religious family. There definitely seems like there are some trails of dysfunction that probably have led to where he is now as a grown man. You know, how do you feel about that?
As far as his family goes, that's not my place to speak. What I will say is everything you read ain't always the truth.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that everything that you read is not always reality.
Okay. Well, that's very deep too. You know, I mean, I think some of this, and again, those are from excerpts from interviews, and of course they are, you know, said quotes from him as the artist or whatever. You know, I haven't heard him verbally omit any of those things, you know, so I will say that, but just, you know, some of the things that are some of the things that are out there do suggest that, you know, there've been conversations, or not conversations, but he has been in interview settings where they have quotations saying that he's talked about that and been very vocal about, you know, certain things that he's gone through with his familiar situation and the way he grew up. And if it's not even those things specifically, everybody has a story. So you know him.
I do, and granted, I know David Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I Lucky Day.
Mm.
Those to me are two completely different people. And that's I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Mm.
But I don't want anybody to, of course, critique him as an artist. But one thing that I should be, of course, allowed to do is, of course, speak my truth as a mom. But when it comes down to all the things that he has put in place, he is definitely deserving.
Mhm.
Never take that talent away from him and all the things that he has going on. But what I will say is, there are things that are being brought to light for the sake of a career that is not reflective of the way that things actually went.
Well, they got to have a storyline, whether it be reality TV, the type of life that we were a part of, whether it be, Hollywood, whether it be the music industry. There's always a narrative and a story that, the people want to tell. You know what I mean? In order to sell the fantasy, in order to sell the whole thing. I mean, and again, you have your own personal relationship, but I think it's amazing that you found the strength to be vocal about it. I mean, it definitely could be looked at by some as a weakness of making it public, but no one can really know what it's like going through a situation where you have to advocate for your child. And, you can't really tell somebody how to do that when it comes to, you know what I mean?
Like, you don't know. People have individual traumas and things that are things that affect them. And when you are dealing with someone who not only presents all these triggers to you via text message, but puts those triggers in songs,
Mm.
I'm not.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like any of his songs are about you?
Oh, 1,000, a triple %. And the
Wow.
minute David Brown does an interview that debunks different is the minute I will pull out all them text messages, emails, and
She said, because I mean, he has a lot of very.
but yeah, it's not something that I'm just like, oh, I'm flattered. No, I think it's actually ridiculous because you are literally creating the most amazing music, especially from all the things that I hear. But you're doing it and you're not only not even, it's not even about credit. I don't need credit for anything or any contributions that I had. It's just the fact that you're not even willing to do more than the bare minimum for the house that allows you to be who you are. And it's not even his mindset, and what he says is, if we're not a family, I'm not gonna give you a piece of my success.
Mm,
We don't have to be in a sexual relationship in order to be a family. And I don't have to give you me for you to value what I do as her mother. And
yeah.
I feel like that's where my voice kicks in, because I don't want to be minimized to just the body that delivered your baby and the body that you feel you can come to because we've created life together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's very important for a lot of females. A lot of females feel that, especially I had a hard time leaving David, and it took him breaking up with me and me being like totally depressed and getting over that to realize I don't want to go back.
Sure.
Because when you come from a two-parent household like I did, and I was able to see the love, and my parents didn't argue in public or in the house, like that wasn't a household that I grew up in.
Right.
And being that, I'm trying to speak into him what I had, and it wasn't something that he was used to. It builds this, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't even know what that looks like because I didn't have it.
Right.
So, yeah, I just feel like we as parents have to really get over traumas from our childhood, because we are subconsciously holding on to things that affect the way that we parent and who we are. And yeah, I feel like this was very great. I definitely appreciate you bringing me on and having me be able to speak my piece and my truth. And it's not a bashing session because, again, David is very talented. I will never take that from him.
Mhm.
I think it's very selfish how he moves in regards to our daughter, and how he can just be texting me songs and putting stuff in music and not think that, I don't feel I should have to force someone like that. I shouldn't be abusive to somebody and then force you to take care of the person I created with you. That's just backwards to me. And I just feel that even though we are not in a relationship and we will never in life ever on the planet of Earth be in one, that's still co-parent healthily.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I just have to give myself a break in time to be able to see him with her, prove himself before I unblock him to give him access to me. He will always have access to her. I think that it does men a disservice not to. But I know that the last time, that I communicated with him, it was very, very dark because he said something about coming here, and I was just like, no, you're not coming here to get her from here. You can pick her up from your mother. That was, and that's something that I accept responsibility for just because I'm not comfortable. And I'm not comfortable having someone who is his current business as a father in home. And, if he wants to take the steps to make those plans because he has access to everyone, and from my boyfriend to my aunt, mom, sisters, brothers, everybody in my family. So, and they never treat him any different. They always show him love. So I just hope that this reaches so that we have some clarity going forward, because I'm never to speak ill and make and bash. This is literally actual things that took place and they affect me. So when I music, that affects me too, because I've dealt with real life with him. Things I didn't even touch on or can't even touch on in this interview, because we have a life together, a whole human.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, I'm inspired by it, your courage, your strength, the strength of your daughter, Cadence, beautiful Cadence, superstar Cadence. I mean, she is just such a shining star. And I love to see young girls with a voice, with conviction in who they are, that stand up straight, that, you know what I'm saying, that speak well, that kind of exude innocence, of course, well, not of course in this day and age, but innocence, there's still an element of innocence there, but just that confidence and that poise, as a young lady. So you're raising her well, I see that in her. And hopefully this can reach in order to not only inspire him, to step up to the plate in a way that will ultimately, change his daughter's life. You know what I mean? Again, I know what that's like to come from a household where that breakdown is, the communication between parents are not ideal. And it just kind of affects your overall confidence and self-esteem about yourself. So I'm hoping that it does reach so we can, resolve that, rectify that relationship, jump in before it's too late. She's still in those, formative stages. So there's still time. It's not like a doomsday type of feel. There's still more than enough time to jump in and salvage the relationship and heal the relationship. And I know that this story will also inspire a lot of my viewers too. So I just want to thank you again for joining us today. And anything else that you have coming up that we should know about, to check in with you, your social media handles?
Well, my social media handle is at Ashlas, the first three in my first and last name, ASHLAS. I'm literally working with Peach West Photography out in LA. I help her all the time, from website to content. She is amazing. So if you need a photographer out there, I assist her, as her model as well.
Yes, modeling, girl. You didn't flipped upside down on the chair. I said, okay, I'm gonna need to step it up, because girl, I got the same old pose. I said, I'm gonna have to step it up next time.
What's amazing is that was our very, very first photo shoot ever at Peach West Photography. Like, she waited
legendary. It was amazing
to do that shoot with her, and we knocked it out. And she's built so many clients from that. It's totally amazing. She is thriving and thriving. She was used in images for Cardi B and Offset's birthday party, for his skate birthday party and everything. Just a ton of stuff. I can't even think right now. But also Lorenz Davis Media in Atlanta. That's my boyfriend, who does cinematography, videography. So we have a bunch of equipment between the two of us that we rent out to different production companies and so forth. It's all under his name, but it's a cumulative accumulation of both of our
family affair
equipment. So
yes,
it's a family, as well as Health and Juiced Up Inc. Juiced Up Bar Inc. That's here in Atlanta, Georgia. Georgette Reynolds is the owner of Juiced Up Inc. She has a brick and mortar here in Atlanta. So we've been doing everything. We've been shooting in the gym from her juicing. We started here in my house in the kitchen.
Wow. Okay.
The progress of things, but you can go to juicedupbar.inc.com, lorenzdavismedia.com, peachwestphotography.com, but I have my hands in all of those different businesses, and I'm very excited for all the things that we come up with and all the things that we do, as well as I will definitely be coming out with this book. I'm just literally getting all of my, and it's definitely a process. It definitely is. Yeah, I'm excited.
That's right. What about College Hill? If College Hill, you know, they're doing this reboot. Last question, you know, they're doing this reboot. I mean, I guess they're going to do the reboot to potentially introduce the original nature of the show, because I think that would be the smartest option. But again, you know, I don't know what their plans are. If they do a reboot of some sort where they do an all-stars cast, an all-star season, of course they need to have you, because you was a live wire firecracker. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. It is what it is. Would you be interested? Would you be down? Because I would be down. I know I would be down.
I mean, it's so hard because you feel like, I mean, I really thought that originally going into it when we first did the BET IG Live and stuff, that I was just like, okay, we're going to get back into the flow of things. And I really need to see where it is, like where I am in my mental health, just because I just want it to be, I want it to be positive. I know I've grown a lot since then, but I also know that I know me, and I just know that.
But you're not here for the mess.
Yeah, and I just know I'm only going to do just so much of being myself before people take it as some sort of something else, and then it turned into, I can't even explain it, but you know this College Hill life.
110%. 110%. You already know.
You know, I'll be a part of it as long as it ain't no mess. But it's hard because, you know, that's what makes TV. But some things ain't, because, baby, this mouth of mine.
I know. We know. You know, I mean, well, I guess they'll just have to wait and see. BET, y'all hit us up. Y'all do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all see what we trying to do. Y'all see we still thriving. You know, young, beautiful Black women making it happen. But again, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us on the first ever interview of the Baby Mama Chronicles BM Gang since 2009. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to hearing what you guys have, you know, coming in the future as far as you and your daughter, and of course the reconciliation of the relationship between you and your baby daddy.
So much. I definitely am excited for you and your platform. I know it's going to do great things, because back in 2009, I was definitely into your, you know, Baby Mama Chronicles. So
yeah,
I'm excited for you. Definitely thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited, but you enjoy the rest of your day, and I can't wait for this interview to post.
You too, love. We'll talk soon.
All right, love. Later.
Peace.